Hello everyone, and welcome back to Video Game Rewind, where we take a look at old games, new games, and games that we may have just left unfinished and forgotten. My name is Ryan, and today I am taking a look at Surviving Mars on the Windows PC. I played this game back on release, back in March of 2018, and enjoyed it thoroughly. Throughout that year, there was a lot of small incremental increases, which added a lot of core functionality to the game, corrected some bugs and all of that. But it was kind of a flagship year, as at the end, in November, they added the Space Race expansion to the game, which basically changed like a whole bunch of features and how the game is played. So it was definitely a huge push forward in the development of this game. This is basically a city building slash RTS style game set in a sandbox of the Martian surface, and it's just a really awesome sort of take on all of those different facets. This game is available to play on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. I don't have any experience with the game on the consoles, so I don't know how well the translation occurs with like a controller or anything like that, but strategy games have done well before with making that transition. You know, Halo Wars is a good example of that. So I have, complete faith in the developer that they were able to kind of translate the mouse and keyboard experience well, especially with this game here. This game was developed by Iamimont Games. They are a Bulgarian video game developer. They're kind of, initially they've been known for their take kind of over the Tropico franchise, so they were responsible for Tropico 3, 4, and 5, though this is their original IP, so this is kind of their own little flagship, I guess, so to speak. They are under the publisher of Paradox Interactive, which is a Swedish game publisher, Paradox Interactive, and they are known for their grand strategy games, most notably Europa Universalis, as well as the latest science fiction-y style game Stellaris. So also City Skylines. So that's kind of their pedigree, and Surviving Mars kind of fits a very interesting niche within that scope of their portfolio. As it, like I was saying, it is a city building sandbox style RTS strategy game, and it's just a very unique experience, and I've definitely enjoyed playing it at release, and then the Space Race expansion here has added a lot of elements that make the game even more enjoyable. So we're gonna basically hop into the game. Basically the game is set up where you choose your race, I guess. It's not really a race, but it's more of just like what's called your mission sponsor, and they're basically your avatar as you play. And you choose like your mission sponsor, your kind of default sort of profile, like who you are. And with all of these facets, you get certain abilities and whatnot that can kind of kickstart your fledgling colony off starting off on a good foot, basically. And you choose your different style of gameplay, for all of those. So one of the most interesting parts is just sort of the randomness of the game, as the resources are kind of randomly, situated on the map that you choose to play, as well as sort of the technologies that you're going to be exposed to on the tech tree. So basically every time you kind of load up the game and hop into it, it's going to be a different experience. So that alone is kind of creates a gameplay loop for you that can definitely keep coming back to again and again. The game is set in a sort of a near future, so the buildings and technology that you see is basically kind of a balance of realism, and just kind of listening to talks from the developer, as well as kind of reading some articles and whatnot about the game. They've always trying to strike this balance between a very realistic rendition of what it would be like setting up a first colony on Mars, as well as introducing like actual gameplay hooks and functionality which make the game enjoyable. So the game kind of is striking a balance between those two aspects. Another thing that the game is focused on is kind of the old literary trope of man versus the environment, as the villain of the game is actually the Martian surface itself, and you are exposed to a lot of environmental hazards with your colony. You have different things like meteorites striking your buildings. You have dust storms which negate your solar power, and a lot of these events last for a period of time, so it's not just like a one-off incident. Like, there are repercussions of that, as well as you managing sort of your resources so that you have a reserve when you have like a critical event, such as like a dust storm or something like that, which or other things they have is like a cold snap. Basically the surface freezes and you lose like a lot of access to some of your water stores and whatnot, unless you have technology which can overcome those sort of obstacles. So for the most part, there's no like set end game with these games that you kind of play. There's different ways to play it, but there's a lot of possible fail states as well. So a lot of colonies could have a situation where you had a certain abundant resource, and then you no longer have that resource, and it basically creates a situation where all the technologies that you have from that base resource just kind of deteriorate and fall away. That's kind of one scenario. Or you end up having a situation where you basically have a natural disaster or something, which creates its own situations you can't recover from. So there's kind of a lot to kind of keep in mind when you're building your colony. But I mean, for the most part, it's very forgiving, because you can just start again, or you can go back to like a previous save state. So don't let my kind of thoughts on the game like dissuade you saying that it's like too intimidating or anything like that, because it is a game. And then there's also easy settings that you can choose. Basically, as you're setting up the game, you can see a difficulty percentage. You can go with super easy, and then you can all the way to like some sort of crazy hard scenario within the game. Also, there's a sort of the randomness of it. There is some story-driven events, which are basically kind of your long story arc through your mission, so to speak. So you initially have your first 10 souls, 10 souls on the surface. From there, you have, that's kind of your, call it the foundational period, something like that. And basically during that period, you're just kind of building the core of the colony, which is kind of what we're going to jump into, just kind of at this transition of the founder stage. That's what they call it. So we're just going to basically jump in there at that point, kind of go over some of the core mechanics of the game and kind of go from there. But after you get out of that first section of the game, which is kind of your beginning, you kind of will eventually fire off the actual storyline that you're going to actually experience. And I think there's a good amount of them. I don't remember how many there actually are, but they could be something as simple as providing resources to like Earth, or you could get something more involved like a first contact situation with an alien species, different things like that. So those are kind of, again, random events that you can kind of experience, or you can choose to play the specific ones if there's one that stands out to you. I've played some fairly difficult ones, and then I've played some normal sort of difficulty ones as well. All kind of very different as far as how you kind of are able to approach them and whatnot. So kind of one of the One things I do want to mention is that the game features like actual topographic data from the Martian explorations that have been conducted by JPL, NASA, and whatnot. So basically kind of, I don't know how accurate the maps actually are to that, but when you're kind of choosing your starting location, you have, you know, longitude and latitude coordinates of the actual Martian surface, which kind of bodes that maybe there is an actual spot that looks like that on the Martian surface, and it's possible that the developers have, of course, you know, kind of massaged and crafted that space accordingly to make it actually a fair playing field for you to explore. So we're gonna go ahead and pop into our game here. And like I said, this is basically kind of starting sort of the founder stage here. Which is kind of the very beginning of the game. I basically...
Resources are low.
We'll go ahead and pause it out and take a look here. So with this here, we basically set up my colony. So here we're basically building some structures inside the dome here, which we're going to see finish out, and then we are going to send for our first colonists to arrive on the surface, as we have a lot of the basic necessities within the game. First stuff here, we have our solar panels. These are collecting during the daylight hours. When the sun sets, we have some wind power to kind of compensate for that, but we also have these battery stores, which are able to charge during the day, and then they'll discharge during the night. So these are all also during like a dust storm or something, when our solar panels can't be utilized. There is a loophole to that. You'll draw power from these power cells. So you can also place these solar panels inside a dome structure, but I feel that is kind of cheating in a way. Not quite sure. I'm gonna go with a different style here, just to kind of just so we can kind of see what's going on in there. Kind of setting up your colony for the first time, you choose your landing site for your shuttle. You also choose your cargo payload of that shuttle. So it'll come with, like, typically you want you're going to have a few basic resources to build to start with. This is kind of a universal depot for storage of all these different resources. This is concrete, metals, and then, like I said, this is universal. You can kind of zoom in here. These are machine parts, electronics, polymers, concrete, metals. There is a slot for fuel, a space for rare metals, and I'm kind of forgetting the other. Oh, food resources as well. So that's kind of goes over the stores. These are kind of the first production buildings that you can build. They're concrete extractors. They basically extract concrete from the actual surface. We are actually... turn that down just a scotch. So, this is kind of the overview of the area. A lot of areas I've scanned already, and I have like a real abundance of resources that kind of got me excited about playing this particular map, as I've never had such an assortment of materials like so tightly grouped together. Usually it's way spread out, as far as like might have a metal resource here, but my high metal resource is like clear across the map. Or I have a scenario where I don't have any water anywhere near my actual colony, like I do here, and it's actually an average deposit. So you can take a look at the different deposits and see how much water is within. This is actually a really good deposit. It's a very, very high grade. So there's different grades. So basically a lower grade, you'll get less water, but you can kind of... I don't find that that's too much of an issue, but it's just something to kind of be aware of as to where your you're looking to expand to. There is also deep resource deposits, so there's deep water deposits as well as deep metal deposits. Those require technology in order to extract them, so it's probably a mid to late game tech to get access to some of those resources. So on this main map here, I basically have it set to kind of be scanning around the surface here, so you can just select these points and it'll do a base surface scan to see if there's any resources or any valuable area to take a look at. This is affected by a structure that I do not have, so we'll go ahead and actually build one of those. We'll open up the build menu here. Very familiar build menu, looks a lot like City Skylines if you've ever played or seen that. So this is our sensor tower here. And our sensor tower essentially lets us, we'll see, there'll be a scanning bonus basically because of that sensor tower. Some also bonuses that you get with these sensor towers is you'll get increased notice if a cold wave or a dust storm is approaching your colony. Give you time to prepare for those events. So not too much else to go over on this overview map. You can get like orbital probes to instantly scan a target grid area if you want. But those of course cost money as well as weight as far as your payload goes. So inside the build menu here we have our drone hub. We currently don't have the technology to construct them on their own, so we have to utilize what are called prefabs, and the prefabs are basically buildings that are constructed on Earth, loaded onto your shuttle, and then transported to Mars. That of course is both pricey and uses up valuable cargo space on your rockets, so you kind of have to weigh whether you want to keep shipping products from Earth or if you want to eventually develop your technology and whatnot to make your Martian colony completely self-sustaining, and that's kind of the primary goal. Recharging stations are for your drones. We'll see if we can see these guys here. These are our workhorses. They will transport goods around between the storage spaces. They will repair damaged buildings or structures. They will unload cargo from your rockets. They basically handle a lot. They will also collect any sort of resources that kind of show up with their control area, their service area. So this is the service, the drone hub here. You can see the game is based on a hex grid, so you can see the blue outline here. This is the service area of those all these drones. So all the drones that are on this sensor tower can operate within here, so they can gather the resources that are mined from these concrete deposits, repair all the buildings within that, and so on and so forth. So right now this one is responsible for 4 drones. Rocket here has 6 drones. If we were to launch this rocket, these 6 drones would automatically reassign themselves to this drone hub. But I'm just right-clicking on them to kind of change their assignment so that they actually go to the drone hub instead of the shuttle. As you can see with the shuttle, they have their own, the shuttle operates as a drone hub as well, so you can kind of utilize that to your benefit. This inner sort of white area is actually the dust generation, or what's going to, the rocket launches is kind of the radius that the dust is going to affect, and the dust is what creates maintenance for your various buildings. See, these I built fairly recently, fairly clean and spotless, whereas these over here have been here a while and they've got a nice coating of Martian dust. to kind of utilize. So we'll kind of go over some of these outlying buildings here that are kind of supporting the dome. This is called a Moxie. Basically, this is what extracts oxygen, or oxygen stores. So that stores oxygen for the dome. The Moxie will not function in a powered off state, of course, as well as like a dust storm that will kick the Moxie offline. This is a fuel refinery. This is an automated building, so it will just automatically create fuel from water. This is your water extractor. These need to be built near these deposits, though you can also create what are called moisture vaporators. You can either develop the technology for them, or you can, ship them from Earth. They are basically kind of used in a pinch, or they're basically moisture farms. You basically they use one hex tile, and you can utilize them to overcome a situation where you don't have one of the water resources to exploit. So these are water tanks for stores, so that'll obviously store water and what. So you'll see these little doors that operate. There are some buildings, production buildings in particular, the polymer factory. Here. This basically will sit outside. That produces these little polymers here. And that will sit outside of the actual dome structure, and that requires workers. So you actually have to have colonists on the surface in order to utilize this production facility. That's kind of one of the probably the cornerstone of this game, is actually managing your population effectively, as the Martian colonists are very, I'm not going to say temperamental, but you kind of have to keep in mind their sort of their sanity levels, and we'll kind of take a look at all that here in a few minutes. So as we kind of go over everything, I have some buildings queued up here inside of the dome. This first one here is a machine parts factory that creates these parts here, and they're vitally important for particular moving components. So like your water extractor here, as well as like some of the more advanced structures, such as the wind turbine, as they require those resources to maintain. And I find that shipping those from Earth takes not only time, but there's an expense of it. And as soon as you can get some of your components actually from the Martian surface, the better the colony is going to wind up, as you're becoming more self-sufficient. And that kind of lends to you being able to easily progress through like a story arc, should you get one, or not be so reliant on situations that could arise where you cannot get any rockets from Earth for whatever reasons. Some of the others, one of the things that was added to, I don't know if it was Space Race or if it's been added, just with a random sort of update, but there is actually random events that occur where I've seen something called a power surge, where a bunch of your power structures will be turned off, or you can kind of choose how you want to mitigate that sort of event, whether you want to turn them off, if you want to keep them running, whatever you choose to do. So a lot of things like that to kind of keep in mind, kind of plan here. So we'll kind of go ahead and here research. This is your tech tree. So this tech over here is unlocked because I have the particular perk. I think I have geologist as my, either have geologist or hydro engineer as my mission leader. So you basically get a certain, you basically get a technology, advanced technology already researched for you. So, but how this tech tree works, and this is my understanding, is that there are columns here that exist up and down and then the techs in between horizontally are actually kind of randomly distributed. So there are certain ones that'll always pop up for you, but you don't know kind of in what order they're going to actually show. So with this particular playthrough, I mean, I'm kind of looking at this farm here, as that's kind of one of the main production centers for food, and having that so early on in the tech tree is very fortuitous. So, but yeah, so basically kind of all these technologies, and sort of probably the advanced ones, they're going to be random, as well as some of the breakthroughs that you're going to find down here at the bottom. These are kind of major steps forward in your technology, culture, different things like that. So, but kind of yet another reason to kind of keep coming back to the game is that you might get a certain smattering of technologies this one time, and you might not ever see certain technology for a little while. So available funding up here, a lot of things, everything costs money. Research time, that's basically coming from our sponsor. We have 100 research per soul, but we can get some different things. We could outsource if we want to spend money to get Earth, researchers to help us out a little bit. We're also kind of working research buildings, conducting our own research while on the Martian surface, as well as finding a few genius colonists that would also help us engage with researching items faster. So this is kind of what we have queued up here. You can have 5 technologies queued up at a time, though pretty much going to come back in quite a bit, just kind of reevaluate what technologies you have available to research at any given time. So you'll be in here quite a bit, in and out. Next thing here is going to be our resupply. We're going to go ahead and advance the game and get it started. We'll actually do that. Command center. This is the spreadsheets in space component of it, so you can kind of start drilling down a lot of information about your colony. This is all basically been added since I've last played, so I haven't experimented too much with it. Kind of see your trends and whatnot as far as all of that goes. Milestones. These are kind of just playing through the game. You can see that this is a red X here. Another mission sponsor. This is new to Space Race. There are other mission sponsors on the Martian surface as well. They're kind of vying for their own. I don't know if there's like an end game with them where it's like, oh hey, this mission sponsor won, so to speak. I don't think it's quite like that. I think this is just kind of it's an element to kind of keep you moving forward, instead of just being a kind of like playing the game, kind of turtling and whatnot. This kind of just gives you incentive to kind of push ahead. I find that not just constructing a dome, but having Martians on the surface by Sol 10 around there is kind of your sweet spot. That seems to be kind of your a good goal to have, so you're not wasting too much time. So we've accomplished these first 4 here, gotten some research bonuses doing so. Scored some points obviously as well. So this is kind of the next one that's up there, but that one might be rather difficult. So basically what happens at this point is we're going to start bringing colonists from Earth to Mars. Once our colonists and whatnot, researchers, have been on the surface for a period of, I think it's 10 sols, that ends like the founder stage, and that'll let you bring more colonists to the surface. Basically, it's kind of the proof of concept phase that, hey, we have a sustainable colony and people can survive here, so go ahead and send additional people over here. People are going to be your key the key components to actually being able to produce goods, research, all of that. So they're all vitally important. And there are situations where they might not be able to work if they are sick, or if they have what's called a sanity breakdown. different things like that will occur to your colonists, and if they're not able to work, that's going to, of course, have a direct impact on the success of your colony. As if you don't have workers working in a certain building, you're not producing that certain good. And if you can't produce that item, then, like machine parts, for example, then you have to ship that in. If you can't ship that in, then you don't get those parts, and now that might spell out a certain series of events that will enable, which will create a fail state for your colony, and see colonists, perish, die off, all of that sort of thing. So, what you do want is a Martian born. That's basically a baby, first Martian baby, that is related to the comfort of your dome. So, if your dome is very comfortable, and you have and you have some colonists with the so-called sexy trait, and you have, be interested to see if you can have people of the same sex, see if they, I don't think they do, but basically producing a baby here automatically ends the founder stage, and propels you forward. So that's kind of the quick way out of that. So 30. What else here down? Oh, planetary view here. This will show us the this is new to the space race. This is the actual space race part of it. You can contact these other mission sponsors. Offering resources, creating trade situations, all of this sort of information, all kind of a civilization style interaction with them. So I haven't played too much with it. Honestly, I don't know how much I will, just because I enjoy the kind of the core game a little more than kind of this additional component. There are certain events where you will launch these covert ops, and basically you're sending a agent into those other colonies to, do these different tasks, steal technologies, drones, sabotage. So basically a corporate espionage sort of situation that you can set up for yourself to do. So what else we got? This here is Martian surface exploration. So there'll be periodic events that you can use. So Project Picnic here. You gotta read up here. Strange signals detected over time. You can trace to this area, nickname the zone. In order to proceed with doing this, you will need 6 drones. They will go over there, and they will, in 12 hours, they'll conduct their analysis of that event, and you'll basically be rewarded with resources. You might be rewarded with just research points. I don't know what some of the other rewards are for doing them, but those seem to be the ones that I've seen. I'll kind of up here these things. Kind of want to skate around this one. So this one is composed mainly of precious metals. This is actually a good one to go after. Actually score it, but I don't think our rocket process of refueling, so maybe. Resource UI here across the top. Take a look at everything that we're producing. Down here on the bottom is kind of our radio station here. You'll see what's really cool about this game is there is a ton of Steam Workshop support. There's a fairly active modding community with Surviving Mars, and they are creating not only units and buildings for the game, they're kind of changing some of the core dynamics of how like AI behaves. There is a mod for these transports, these Martian rovers here, where they will automatically gather resources. That's a mod that I forgot to actually install, but basically you can just choose from them. You can go, download them off the Steam Workshop, and then go through the mod manager here and turn them on and off at your leisure. the auto gather resources is actually a really good one because it will allow this guy here to automatically scope out surface resources. Dust devils here will kind of wreak havoc on your explorers and whatnot. I find that they have a intelligence all their own. So there's a surface resource here, some metals. So we'll go ahead and send that transport over there to gather those. Take a look at research rover here, and this research rover is designed to check out these specific points. So there's an anomaly here. This will basically get you science sources. This will get you a breakthrough, a technology, if you go and scan that anomaly. So go ahead and bulk up our science here. And we'll go ahead and kind of unpause the game and let everything run here, because I think that covers all the bases. One thing I do want to say over here on the radio, first of all, the bass music for the game is like really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but there's mods where that individuals have created like separate radio stations to draw from, and so you can get a lot of different music within the game that way. One thing that you saw here was this building kind of was built very quickly because it was a prefab. I did ship that from Mars, or from Earth rather, so because you basically need to research that in here, whether or not you're going to have the ability to build that for yourself. So it requires workers, which we do not have any yet. So I'm kind of waiting on the living complex to be built here, and then I'll go ahead and call for our colonists. We have that built, so we're going to go ahead and go into our resupply menu here. You can see that our cargo capacity of our rockets right here. We have our funding, and we have available rockets. So with this particular mission sponsor, you have 2 rockets. This is the Blue Sun Corporation. So I mean, if you can go with, like I think US has like 5 or something like that. So that's basically kind of your difficulty, because if you can keep sending rockets, you don't have to send them back and forth so often. So supply pods, that's these guys down here. They are one-use items. They're actually a really cool addition. They arrive quicker than a cargo or passenger rocket. They basically can save you in a pinch. Like if you really need, like, you know, electronics, or you really need food or something like that, you can kind of go into here and, you know, launch this one-time payload. Basically just 100 million a pop, so they are pricey, but they might be able to get you out of a really difficult situation. One thing to kind of also remember is that rockets cannot launch or land during dust storms, so you could wind up in a situation where you have a passenger rocket in orbit, and that rocket needs to land within a certain period of time, or those colonists will die. So something else to kind of consider there. But we're going to go ahead and go into our colonist manifest here. On the left are all of, we'll go here to filter, so we can choose some different filters here. As far as, we don't want any seniors, I don't really want any middle-aged people. That's just because you don't want an aging population, because once they get to senior, they no longer are productive members. So you kind of want to keep that in mind. Children don't work, adults work, middle-aged work. Don't know if, I guess you, kind of keeping all of that. So those are kind of what we'll filter here, and then different things. If you're looking for certain specializations, there's different job classes. So you have scientists, which handle your research, engineers, which basically work in your production buildings, so like that machine parts factory, that's where engineers will work. Officers handle your security. Geologists, they'll work in your mines. So if you have a metal mine outside, that's where they'll work. Botanists will be your farmers, and medics will kind of be the medics and officers are basically internal dome units. The medics will work there, the medical facilities, and kind of keep your sanity, your colonists healthy and sane and all of that. So it kind of pre-selected colonists there, but wouldn't necessarily like choices because you're kind of looking at their various traits here. So Hildegard Trenton here, he's a scientist, he's a party animal, so he'll get comfort from social buildings, so like parks, bars, like things that you create like that will have a social element to them. So but he's also a gambler, and he wants to gamble. That could be good or bad. You can see there is a 50% of losing 20 sanity. It's a casino, so that's not necessarily a great trait to have. So I'm going to take Monica here. She loses less health without food, water, and oxygen, so that's actually a good trait to have, especially early. I'm looking for probably 3 botanists, 2 or 3 botanists, just so that we can successfully have a food crop surface. I think I'll go 2 jaws, 2, 2. No specialization is decent too, because they can work in buildings that, like service buildings, so. Oh, basically, you want more medics so that you can create different shifts, so that because basically if you have a medic or a building that with a non-active shift, people can't get the resource from there. So if the medical place is closed because no one is working it, then they don't have any benefits from that medical structure. Same goes for production buildings. You can basically, that's one thing that I haven't really really dialed into, is sort of micromanaging. Like, you can basically have this building turn off at a certain point in the day to kind of, and then another building turn on for a different shift, so that you can kind of manage your power a little bit more effectively. Honest. acknowledge it. That'll be our first 12. I mean, that basically gives us kind of about three geologists, 3 botanists, 3 scientists, a medic. Go. In here. But no specialists. They can work in pretty much any building. They just have a performance penalty. The same is true with a botanist working in line or something like that. They severe work penalty them to do that. So that was just a warning that it hadn't detected that these houses were built yet. This initial housing complex here housed 14 of our colonists. So, and we see here that we have a rocket inbound. They are carrying 12 food with them, so hopefully that'll last them long enough to actually produce food. Hydroponics farm here, which is kind of our first food production structure that to construct.
Anomaly found.
You can basically choose an order here, and I'm basically looking at the optimal harvest. So wheatgrass and maybe crop.
Research complete. Anomaly analyzed.
So our little robotic explorer over here is analyzed that anomaly. Basically gave us basically 1,000 search points for us. That basically completed one of our research, so we have an extra bonus from our sponsor, which is good. And then we have this additional research tile here, which will give us some crowdfunding back from Earth, some money. So I'm not going to make any alterations to any at this point, but I am going to send our robot to that anomaly. Keep him working. We have 63, so I'm actually gonna see if I can build this before. This is basically a landing pad. What the landing pads do, there's 2 types. There's an actual landing pad, and then there's a trade pad. The trade pad basically sets up a automated hub where you will request certain resources for other ones. But the landing pads themselves basically contain that dust, so that's no longer an issue. But it does cost it's concrete to construct that. So that has a building. And you can change the priority of your buildings up here, so you can kind of increase, like, we want this to be constructed fast, quicker than something else. Our robots do have to charge, so you'll see it's also kind of a good idea to place some of their recharging stations out and about, just so that your robots don't have to go too far to recharge.
Anomaly analyzed. Sector scanned.
There's more to the barren environs of the Red Planet than meets the eye. A veritable treasure trove of undiscovered knowledge and wonder, so long as you know where to look. So
that key icon actually unlocked right here for us. So we basically unlock these 2 technologies. Low G high rise, which basically creates apartment buildings. They are lower comfort than default residential structures, but they hold more people, so that's kind of you can make up kind of the relaxation difference with services. So, but you know, basically people are, like I keep going back to it, that your colonists are vitally important for your production. So, you know, you want to have a decent amount of colonists living in each dome so that they can actually work in the different production centers, research centers, and so. Got our sensor tower here. We'll go ahead and see that boost. So you can see here, sensor tower boost on that third line there, 207%. So if we did a scan here, it would gonna receive some bonus. So it'll scan a little faster. So some other stuff. So Stirling generators, advanced technology. Basically, they can operate inside a dome or outside a dome. They're basically kind of like their own sort of power generator source, I guess. They're pretty cool. They don't have the limitations of like a solar panel where they basically operate all the time. So there's a maintenance cost with them. I think it's polymers. So they do, you know, that's kind of a mid-level tech. Power cables here, that is what you see right here. So power cables will, you're able to get resources or build these buildings like further out, connect them via those power cables. Power switches are really good, that you can place like a power switch, you know, somewhere midway, so that if for some reason the power cables receive damage halfway through, instead of losing that electrical energy, you can actually shut off with switches, and that is actually going to be the same with pipe, what's called a pipe valve. If you have a long stretch where you have a long pipe and the pipe gets damaged in the middle of it, you're going to be leaking resources, particularly oxygen and water, which are huge items. So having a pipe valve right here, and that, you know, before that you can basically cinch off that section until it gets repaired. So some other concrete extractor, metal extractor, we're going to build one of these as well. And cool, our colonists are going to be arriving, so we're going to go ahead and down here. We'll wait for this to be finished before we send them down. You can see that passengers on board die if rocket. Passengers on board will die if rocket doesn't land in 113 hours. So just keep that in mind. Kind of make that more of a priority as we kind of go. Some different build items here. Concrete extractor, we already researched that. Metal, that's going to get some metal. Rare metals, that's going to extract the rare metals resource, so all fairly intuitive. Metals will allow you to create machine parts. We'll go ahead and pause it here. Metals will, so let's see. Machine parts factory will utilize metals to produce the machine parts. So this is kind of a mid-tier building here. The rare metals extractor will actually, with the addition of an electronics facility, will let you actually make the electronic circuits. So those are these items here, and these are vitally important to the operation of your drone hubs. So basically, my colony is likely going to expand upwards into this area to start exploiting this resource patch up here. Basically kind of hop along that, so that'll be kind of the likely direction that we go. Electronics factory, polymers factory, fuel refinery, over. There are some buildings that are unique to your mission sponsor, particularly the corporate office here. I don't know anything about it, I haven't built it yet, so we're gonna see how that goes there. See if there's benefits to actually constructing that building. High support, Moxies, we kind of went over. This is the farm here, so this will function way better than hydroponics, but it takes up entire slice, I guess. for lack of a better word. So it also requires more workers, though there are technology enhancements where you can decrease the amount of workers required for certain buildings. Then that'll be like some AI research that you can do, some efficiency thing, not from so. Storages, dumping sites. That's basically the extractors here, mines. They will produce waste rock, and this is a waste rock pile here. So you have to have these waste rock store areas in order to place them in sensible areas. It becomes an issue to manage, though later on you have a tech where you can actually utilize some of this waste rock. So, but that's actually pretty late game tech as far as I have discovered so far. They haven't really changed that. Basically, you're able to turn waste rock into concrete. So, some domes. Basic dome is what we have here. They also added this micro dome as well as the barrel dome, which I find is very interesting. Doesn't have like spaces for what's called a spire. A spire is a kind of a central structure here, and you can get different things like a residential spire or like a medical spire, or in my case, I have a water reclamation system just because I'm a hydro engineer. As my mission leader, I can build this structure, and then it can be worked and basically drop the water usage out of this dome. So, we might create a situation where we have one dome which is strictly for farming, and that's going to utilize a lot of water. So we might want to utilize that water reclamation to kind of mitigate that situation. So there's also medium-sized dome, large dome, and then there's like one super advanced dome that you can get as well. Basically an Earth-like dome. So they're fairly large, fairly late game. Get those passages. These will link domes together. So basically, this was added fairly early on in Surviving Mars. Initially, the designers wanted it to situation where your domes would be completely isolated from one another, but probably a little bit of gameplay community as well as sort of like a realistic approach allowed for domes to be connected via the passages, and colonists traveling between the two. Basically what happens is the colonists can utilize resources in a neighboring dome through this passage. There's of course a penalty for them to do so, but it adds a little bit of it adds a significant amount of like flexibility as far as your colony goes. Passage ramp basically is just a road that goes over that passage walkway. So passages were a welcome addition to the game just for that reason. It just kind of eased up sort of the difficulty of basically having to have like redundancy as far as, oh, I need a medical building in every dome, or I need a this diner or something like that in each and every dome to kind of satisfy the happiness needs of the colonists. So kind of its own challenge there. So I'll actually go into here real quick. Oh, they haven't landed. Colonists here in a second. Research and education, so living complexes, those are the apartments that we saw. Nursery, that'll house basically kids, so they kind of have their own living space. So you can have basically a dome that has like super high comfort that's just producing babies left and right. You'll benefit from having a nursery there where the school children can actually live and flourish, so to speak. Playground is for kids there. The school, that will set up sort of the basic traits of your colonists. So whether kind of what we were looking at as far as the negative trait of like gambler, or the positive ones of being a survivor or a loner, those different sort of nerd Those different traits there come from actually this school here. You can basically create like the 3 positive traits of your Martian-born population by, indoctrinating them early. The one thing about Martian-born colonists is that they never get what's called Earth sick, whereas the colonists that come from Earth, if you don't satisfy their core needs, which we'll kind of look at when they land, their sanity needs and whatnot, they will become homesick and they will eventually leave your colony. The difference is, like a Martian-born, they're not going to get Earth sick because they've never experienced Earth, so they don't know what they're actually missing. So something to keep in mind there. Research lab. Actually didn't build one of those yet. Go ahead and get that started. And that'll kind of boost our research, of course. Dome services, spacebar, they all kind of offer these different services. So the diner is a dining, social, and food space. So colonists can get food there. They can satisfy their social needs as well as their dining needs. Some of the more advanced buildings that you don't want to build early on are the electronics store, because that will consume electronics, which we are not producing, so we'd have to ship them in, and then that would satisfy a shopping need and a gaming need. So if you don't have any colonists that have that need a gaming trait, then you don't have to worry about it. That's kind of why you want to sort through that list, at least early on, until you can kind of get a fully developed colony on your own. It's kind of self-sustaining, and you're able to produce these resources sort of en masse. Grocer here is provide food and shopping. So basically the only thing that this dome does not have is a place for shopping. Typically, a grocer might be a good item for that. I find the diner is good. And the diner kind of makes sense in my mind as kind of for these colonists. Like, you need kind of infirmary, and then you're basically going to have like a chow hall, a cafeteria space for everyone to eat at. So that's kind of thoughts. That, even though eventually you can get tourists from Earth, you'll get a casino complex or something like that, and that's actually one of the criteria specifically for this mission sponsor. And that's this tab here, mission goals. So it gives everything an overview of this particular game, but you can see here on the right hand side, these are specific to your sponsor. So just kind of a little bit extra options here for you to play. These are the spires. You'll see a residential spire in the future. There's a whole bunch of them. Some other ones that I can't think of right now. Other than the residential one, there's one for sanity. It's basically a behavior therapy sort of place. There's like hanging gardens, which increase comfort and all of that. So decorations, that are these parks here. They don't just serve as decorations, but they provide relaxation, exercise, and playing spaces. So projector lamps, they're just that, just a way to kind of decorate your colony here a little bit. And that's pretty much all the basics. Outside, I've never built any of these. Again, just kind of various enhancements to the game to kind of make it more interesting. So we're going to go ahead and land our colonists. And we see a shadow here. We see the rocket landing. Given that Martian gravity is less than Earth, reusable rockets are a feasible sort of design. It's SpaceX's development track, I guess. Get them on the surface here.
New colonists have arrived.
Here's our colonists. I just picked a random one here. He's an adult, he's a geologist. He's in this dome. We can rename our domes if we need to. He's where he's living, and then his initial workplace here. This should sort itself out. He will hopefully, he'll eventually go over here once this mine is built, but he kind of just picks a job at random at this point. So, but he's went ahead and started working here. You can see here we have his health. See what kind of affects that. Statistic, sanity, comfort level, and morale. So these last three are kind of the ones to kind of watch for. Because any sort of breakdowns, they'll either become earth sick, or they will become a renegade, in which they basically are kind of rebelling. In particular, they'll cause havoc on your colony, so they will I don't know if they'll do any sort of sabotage, but they will like steal resources Italy from you. So a lot of things are kind of happening right now. This rocket is pretty much ready to launch. It's refueled, so this can actually go back to Earth. This one, the drones are unloading some of those food stores that are there. So actually, this one still has 2 electrons on board, so hopefully they'll. The reason why is because that store is full. So go ahead and the universal depot between this land area.
Full of hope and determination, the first founders have set foot on the Red Planet.
The rare metals, not only do they eventually let you produce the electronics components, but you can ship them back to Earth, and you'll basically get money for doing so. Yeah, that's kind of a overview here of Mars. I don't know if there's too much else to kind of go over. I mean, a lot of it is kind of just popping in, starting a game, and just kind of learning the mechanics of it, and definitely not being afraid to fail. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways to play it. I mean, this could be your own win state. I mean, you've gotten colonists to Mars, whether or not they survive or not, that makes no difference. This could have been this game's particular win scenario. But this game here, I'm looking to go a little bit further with, simply because of kind of the random resources and how they're spread out here. There's a very logical path, and it's been quite a while since I've had a relatively easy game to play where these resources are kind of clumped together as they are here on this map. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to play out this game here.
Sector scanned.
So, but there's a lot to still experience that I've only kind of mentioned in passing with the game, as there's the random of doesn't have. We need power. Some initial strategies kind of early on is kind of keeping things kind of clustered together. This kind of plays against you in some ways, in that if you have like having everything like tightly gripped together, you run the risk of like a meteor strike and damaging a lot of buildings. But having buildings tightly woven to get tightly together, there's also less resource management that you have to worry about. So like I said, this colony is very fortunate to have a water resource so close to it, so close to a metal deposit and all of that. So there's a lot of Some of the other quality of life improvements of the game is that buildings that are built adjacent to one another will automatically have these power cables ran to the building. That was not done before, so you would basically have to run these power cables between these wind turbines, for example.
Milestone achieved.
Oh, cool. So we get a little fireworks display. That's because our awesome botanists have successfully created food on the surface here. So it's our first crop. Basically, they've moved on to these leaf.
Our colonists are suffering from hypothermia.
And that is because they need electricity. I think that's kind of maybe has sorted itself out. Storage space is full, so we have a ton of concrete going. Or at least we need to get some more drones here eventually, so. This item appears super useful. You basically choose the drone hub. I wish they have it for the rockets. So, basically what it lets you do is basically, if you can click this minus, it'll basically put these drones into a storage state, so to speak, and then you can actually redeploy them later. That was actually, when the game was first launched, it was very difficult to you basically have to find one and then click on them and then reassign them accordingly, and that was kind of a difficult task. So our dome is freezing here because we don't have any power to it. Oh, good spot to. They're gonna get dirty. Also, the wind turbines would get a boost by being on like a higher mountain or something like that. So, different little bonuses and whatnot to keep in mind. One building I didn't go over is the tunnel here. This works a lot like what were they? A Nidus worm in StarCraft, in that you can place the entrance to this tunnel here and a certain range elsewhere. It's the exit, and then travel between those 2 points. They allow you to basically jump around the map relatively quickly, especially in situations where the resources are really spread out. Get to them a lot better, because it basically gives you an access point for pipes to connect to. So if you have a water resource that's way out, like here for example,
Research complete.
instead of building a long pipe that we have to maintain to get there, we can build one of those tunnels to get there a little bit faster. The other reason that the tunnel here is that's going to be the only way to get up on top of this plateau to conduct research if we so. We'll eventually need to construct at least one of them. They are pricey, as they utilize a lot of machine parts to construct. So, gotta keep that in mind. Food. First Martian born is still on the table. We have a few sexy colonists, so this might happen for us. That will all undoubtedly change. 200. Working here? Oh, it's kind of, we're in this, it shows right here, this kind of blue highlight. This is kind of the shift that's working right now. You can enable that, or rather, I guess you can just shift. Nobody likes the graveyard shift, so that they'll take a sanity hit for that. Any colonist that works outside of the dome, they do take a sanity hit doing so. So worked outside the dome, -10. Got to keep that in check. They basically have to walk out here. Unprotected environment. But yeah, that's kind of the budding beginnings of my colony here. Well, we'll see if we if I do a follow-up video, just kind of show how this colony has kind of materialized over the course of the events, and see what actual storyline gets unlocked for me. But all in all, like, I find Surviving Mars to be just this wonderful sandbox experience that, you know, it has this degree of randomness that's very unique to it, as well as kind of a refreshing change of pace for like an RTS game or like a city builder, because of resource components. It's like a good blend of like two very, you know, different genres, like your city builder and your RTS, sort of kind of mashing together. And like I said, for the most part, I mean, there are storylines where you could enter a combat sort of situation, but, you know, wholly the game is you versus the environment of Mars, and that's a very interesting concept that's definitely worthy of exploration. And I don't see too many other games that have, you know, ever touched on that or done anything with that. It's always been, you know, war between two races or different things like that. So, or you just kind of, you know, building a sprawling city and managing that. So this game is kind of a very different change of pace, and is like a wholly unique experience, you know, for that reason. So there's a lot of balancing acts within the game, kind of haven't touched on given that it is so early, but, you know, there's always a looming cascade failure of situation. Metal is a primary example. You don't find metal resources, you don't have access to them, or water in this, for example, too. You know, you can't produce sort of these more advanced, you can't produce machine parts. You can't produce machine parts, then, you know, you can't operate these other, you know, power structures, because you can't maintain them as well. So you have to ship that in from Mars, creating kind of a logistical hurdle for you to kind of overcome. So then you have to, you know, make basically more money in order to ship those parts accordingly. So there's always that balancing act, and then you can run into a situation where you have that shipment coming to Mars, but you have what's called like a great, you know, Martian dust storm, which blankets your entire colony in dust for a significant period of time, wherein your colony is starting to fail because of maintenance issues and need those parts. And, you know, you wind up, your colonists start to, you know, get cold, and they start freezing, and then they start dying, and then death of a colonist is very catastrophic. And that not only does that colonist die, your colonists take a morale hit, and you lose applicants in your pool from Earth, because nobody wants to come to Mars because of survivability aspect of it. So, you know, that's just a cascade failure of an entire system. So a lot of spinning plates to kind of deal with, but fun nonetheless. And I've definitely you know, enjoyed my experience. And then with the game, you know, kind of more down the road, I mean, there's of course technologies which overcome a lot of issues that you might have. So for like resources, you know, water is typically a constant concern. You can build like a ton of moisture farms, but I mean, I find that rather a daunting task. But metals and stuff like that kind of gets mitigated later on with a certain technology that you get, which is kind of an advanced structure. But basically, at that point, your colonies rather is kind of a booming society in and of itself, and with that, you start dealing with homelessness, sort of the logistical nightmare of like food, getting like resources around. So when the colony gets like super big, you kind of have like a whole new set of issues to kind of deal with. So but that's pretty late game, and pretty much you're probably done with the map at that point. To be honest, that's kind of the end game. The game has like initial sort of periodic plateaus, I guess, where you're basically have reached a certain epoch, and there's kind of like a little bit of lull in the gameplay before it kind of ramps up again with like, you know, your main storylines firing off and things like that. So there's definitely some ups and downs, you know, throughout the game. It might not be a pacing for everybody, but you know, I'm just kind of the turtling aspect of the game and whatnot. It's appealing to me. Kind of, it's a good pace overall. Sometimes I feel the game is moving slow, but you know, that just could be because I haven't, you know, done the right things to kind of line everything up. So definitely not a fault of the game, and it kind of lets you focus on, you know, maybe some design aspects, like how you want things to look and whatnot. So yeah, I don't think there's too much else to kind of go over, but I am looking forward definitely to the future of this game, as Paradox Interactive in particular is kind of known for supporting the games for an extended period of time. So, and kind of, you know, allowing for expansion, modding, different components and everything. I mean, that's one aspect that's really cool with them, is they support their key franchises for a considerable amount of time. So it's not like, and Surviving Mars here, they've already seen one expansion. I can't, games like City Skylines has seen numerous expansions. Some of the other games, strategy games published by Paradox, they've seen their updates as well as some transformative gameplays with like Crusader Kings and different things like that. So definitely looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Surviving Mars, what they intend to add in the future, and then whatever aspects that IAMUWANT Games decides to showcase for us here as the game kind of reaches a certain maturity within its own little marketplace. But it's definitely a unique game, and something that I would highly urge you to check out if if any sort of the gameplay that you've seen here is any indication that's something that you might like. I would highly recommend take a look at the game. So I want to thank you all for joining me here on the Martian surface. If you like this video and want to see a full campaign or an extended play of it, please leave a like and a comment below, because that'll kind of dictate whether or not I do like a sort of an extended play style game where I kind of show the evolution maybe of this particular game or another colony, from more of a beginning standpoint all the way to sort of a terminus or end game scenario. So definitely keep that on the table for us. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next video, and want to remind you all to have a good one and take care. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.